Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Campbell Chronicles. Thanks for joining us yet again today. It's been a long week, but we have some turn my camera on here. Welcome back, everybody. We got Brady joining me at the house today. He's visiting family during the Rona. I don't know if that's bad or not, but we're allowed to visit family, I guess. We should be allowed to. Also joining me once again, we got Kyle. Hey, Kyle.
What up?
Oh, you look better today. You're not as pixelated.
Well,
I like it.
You know what they say.
Sundays are for streaming.
Sundays are for
Age
streaming.
defines beauty, am I right?
Oh,
I
let's
get
see
better with
here. All right, we got a good live stream health here. I'm going to keep this pulled up here. We got live chat up. Okay. Let's see here. Poor stream health. That's all right. So today, we actually had quite a bit of news come out this week. I thought it was starting off to be a very slow week, but then it kind of ramped up. It got better and better. So I like that. But here we go. Let's start off with some of the first things. Kyle, did you see anything in the news that came out to you?
I've actually been not on my internet as much as I normally am this week, so I'm actually a little bit out of the loop this week due to other things and prior engagements. So I'm actually excited to talk about some things that I may have missed.
Okay.
Because I probably have heard a couple of these things, but I'm excited to talk about it all.
Sure. Okay. Well, as you guys may know, this channel is dedicated to family travel and Disney, and Star Wars is Disney. But I just want to start. I can't talk today. Talk a little bit about some of the Disney news that's out there. Mulan gets an official, another official release date to the theaters. It's coming out on July 24th. So we're going to expect more and more of the economy to open up over time. We also have the
Guys,
Muppets.
do you remember movies?
Yeah,
do you remember movies?
What's a
Going
movie?
to the movies?
What's a movie? We also have the Muppets coming to Disney Plus. That's going to be coming out on July 31st. If you're not a Muppet fan, I mean, it's Jim Henson.
Sorry.
He ties in directly to Star Wars even, doing a lot of the puppeteering there.
Which Muppets? Is this the Muppets movie that came out in, 2012?
No,
Or
this is a new Muppet
Oh.
TV show.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's called Muppets
Good.
Now.
Series. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I'm excited. I
Yeah.
hadn't even heard about that at all.
relevant again.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I remember watching Muppet Babies when I was a kid, and then they would have those Star Wars scenes. That was really cool. That was really cool. We also have Disney Springs that opened up on the 20th. They had a limited opening. It started with just third-party vendors. No Disney stores were open, no Marvel stores. So you had more and more people started to open up the week. I think it's by today or tomorrow, you're actually going to see a lot more people come in, and more Disney stores even open up. So
For the
Go ahead.
for the unknowing, what is Disney Springs?
Oh, yeah,
I'm
good
one
point.
of them.
Disney Springs is, if you've ever been to Disneyland in California, Disney Springs is like downtown Disney, but in Florida.
Oh, okay.
So it's a
okay.
huge, it's like 10 times bigger than Disneyland's
Yeah.
downtown Disney. It's huge. So the whole shopping area basically
It's
is
the place
opening
you
back
walk
up.
sadly away from Disneyland.
Yes.
through- just to get that last little
Yeah.
glimmer of
Or
Disneyland.
on a positive note, you
Little
can go there
glimmer
to
of
start your
magic.
trip.
Spend all your money at the beginning of the trip.
That's right.
That's what we did last time.
Yeah. So that's opened up back up now. Like I said, by today, tomorrow, and maybe even today. I can't remember which day it was. They're going to be opening more and more to people to shop. More Disney stores are going to be opening. So they wanted the third party vendors to come in first, take a look at it, see the procedures.
Yeah.
All the social distancing markers are out there. Everything's ramping up pretty good. Also, we had a soft opening of Hong Kong Disneyland. So that's minimal crowds, minimal things going on there, minimal shows, all that good stuff. So it's just soft. It's implied in its name, right?
Soft
Yes.
boiled.
Soft
Not
boiled.
hard.
That's right. So
It's not cooked all the way.
right, exactly. So
Which is
yeah,
good news.
but that's good news for us, right? Because that means Galaxy's Edge is one step closer to us, right? Because we can go very, very soon.
That's what we really care about.
That's really, really
It's the only reason why I moved to California.
right. Let's get on some
Forget the
Star Wars
job.
news. What'd you say, Kyle?
I said, forget the job.
Yeah. All right, let's get on some Star Wars news here. Let me pull up my webpage. First up for grabs here, we have Star Wars Ahsoka reportedly to appear in the Obi-Wan Disney Plus show. This wasn't, to me, a huge surprise, especially kind of the way they were doing the season 7, the last season there, where you had like the back and forth between Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. That was actually kind of nice. So anyways, this was from Screen Rant. It's Screen Rant. Take it for what you will. It's fairly reliable, I feel. With bringing a live action Ahsoka into the mix, you can't really go wrong. At least I don't think you can. So yeah, I like this. I like this a lot, actually. The more Ahsoka we see, the better. I don't need the whole earth flooded with Ahsoka, but this is definitely a character we could stand to see on live action. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Kyle.
Oh, well, I think that this is gonna really kind of. I think this should be the sealer on her character arc. You know, I think the only thing I really, outside of what we think we know, at least for the Mandalorian coming up, the only thing that I can think of as far as like what I want from Ahsoka is that bridge. Like, how did she get from losing all hope? Almost, I don't know if she lost hope, but in the spot we saw her at the end of Clone Wars, right?
Yeah.
To how did she get to be Fulcrum? Like, I want to see that transition now a little bit. So we'll see. I hopefully what that is like in the Obi-Wan show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you get.
I have a dog in my room now.
I think you get a little taste of that through the Ahsoka book, the Ahsoka novel that came out.
True.
And that's a really great book. And if you don't like reading, the audio book on Audible is really great because it's all voice acted. They have sound effects and music going on. That it kind of takes you through Ahsoka's going from a Jedi to, well, actually you don't really see the transition. We saw that in Clone Wars though.
Sure. Yeah.
You pick up with Ahsoka in exile, and then you see her make the steps for coming back to the fight. And that's
Right.
it was really cool, and it's a great book. I think it's one of my favorite expanded universe books. You know, the current expanded universe books. But I like that they've discovered how popular the character is. They know that everybody likes her, that everybody wants to see more of her.
Yeah.
And all of these rumors and supposed leaks and all that stuff, it's not real until it happens. So we may be hearing more and more that Ahsoka's going to be in this and Ahsoka's going to be in that.
Right.
None of it's for certain until it happens. It does worry me a little bit that we're seeing so much of her name pop up everywhere, tied to so many different series, and we don't know what that's going to be like.
Yeah.
So it might be an oversaturation, but it also might be something where she is dropped here, she's dropped there, teased here, shown there, kind of thing, until they get the Rebels sequel series.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of like the little bits and pieces they're going to drop of her until she has her whole series with the sequel series of Rebels, if that happens.
Sure.
So I think
I kind of also like how Ahsoka has become more of a relatable version of C-3PO and R2-D2, and by that I mean a vehicle in which we experience Star Wars. You know, R2 and C-3PO are meant to be that consistent those consistent characters that take us on a journey across these Star Wars. I think I like how Ahsoka's has become the relatable version of that. You know?
an actual
I can
value.
feel for that person that exactly, that has gone through Order 66, that has gone through the Empire, that has has gone through the loss of a master, all that kind of thing, all those kind of things really it's like I appreciate it, and as long like Brady was saying, as long as they're not oversaturating it, as long as it's just like bits here and there where it's nice, neat vignettes, I guess you could say, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and it goes along with the lines that we've been hearing about how when Kevin Feige showed up to the Disney brand, to Star Wars, well, I mean, he's been in the Disney brand with Marvel, but when he showed up with the Star Wars brand now, his whole role is to intertwine all of the stuff, right? So, and he does that with characters. He's very much a character-driven film guy. Like when he makes his movies, when he produces his movies, it's all about the characters. At least that's what we saw with Marvel. Like every little bit and piece of progression through the Marvel story was always about the characters. So I think that's what we've been told Kevin Feige's job has been. We're starting to see the little bits of news coming around Ahsoka. That might be his route. That might be his direction. And a lot of that, I'm sure, has to do with Dave Filoni being at the head of creative now too. So I think it's all starting to make sense. The more we see announcements like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, Kyle, and just real quick, I sent you a message there. Just check that out real quick. Emily brings up a good point. After Bray talks about the audiobook. Audiobook is actually read by Ashley Eckstein. I can't remember say that right. I'm sorry, Ashley. Anyways, she's actually a really cool girl. I like to listen to her talk and do her interviews about Ahsoka. Woman, sorry. I like hearing from her. She's good.
You're just used to seeing her as Ahsoka.
Yeah,
like hearing her voice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So true. That's probably a little subconscious downfall there. Anyway, so yeah, I do like that a lot. Let's go on to our next piece of news here. Let me throw my news board back up here.
But wait, one last thing.
Yeah.
Good or bad? What's the verdict?
I'm up in the air. I really like the character. I just don't want to be flooded with it.
Yeah.
That's my only thing.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be flooded. What about you, Kyle? Good or
Sorry,
bad?
I was watching. I was reading that message you sent me.
Ashley Eckstein. Not Ashley per se, but Ahsoka. What do you think? Good or bad? As much as we've been seeing Ahsoka news.
Oh, I think it's great. I love the character. So much I'm about to buy a $120 to $175 statue of Ahsoka. So much.
Nice. All right, let me throw my news board back up here. We'll move on to the next one here. That's not the one. Is it the one? Sorry. Yes, it is the one. I don't know why I'm not on the right page, though. Sorry, guys. So we have Timothy Olyphant, okay? Timothy Olyphant. Let me throw up a picture of him right here. That's him. He is in the news because he just got cast as an unknown role in The Mandalorian Season 2. Now, this, to me, is one of the most exciting pieces of news that I've heard about Mandalorian Season 2. The reason why is it's highly rumored that he's going to be wearing this man's armor. Boba Fett. We know that the original actor for Jango Fett is returning and reprising, well, not reprising, but he's going to be Boba Fett. And let's see here. So I'll get to that. This is just this is from the Boba Fett fan club. I'm going to get to this point here. So anyways, one of my favorite books, one of my favorite trilogies, really is the Aftermath Trilogy. Have you guys read that yet?
Mm-hmm.
I've read
bits and
the
pieces.
first one.
Okay. So if you're not familiar with the Aftermath Trilogy, it starts about a couple months after Return of the Jedi, and it goes all the way up until the Battle of Jakku, between all three books. In there, you have a lot of excerpts. In each of those books, there's an excerpt on this guy named Both. Well, let me get the Vanth. Yes, Vanth is his last name. What's his? Yeah, I think it's Bib Vanth.
Yep.
Vanth.
John.
See, he's basically a self-proclaimed sheriff, and he goes throughout Tatooine, and he kind of starts laying down the law. Not in a vigilante style, but he's actually establishing some kind of law enforcement. And if you read the books, it kind of gives it this Western feel to it, like the sheriff's now in town kind of deal. I really liked it. I look forward to those little excerpts there.
He's not a malicious character. He's more of a paragon in that aspect.
Right.
After the Empire's gone, there's a power vacuum, right? So he was one of the guys that stepped forward, and he kind of has this figure about him because he has this armor that he just looks imposing, and he uses that to kind of keep order.
Yep. And so this article came out quite a while ago when the first Aftermath series came out. It talks about, it has excerpts in here. It shows the whole passage about how he came across the armor, and basically says, I'm going to be taking that. And it talks about, while it isn't specifically said this was Boba Fett's armor, it is very, very suggested that it is, because it talks about how it's wrangled, it has acid. And then they talk about how Cobb is going to, someone needs to fill the throne that Jabba left behind.
It actually says Mandalorian battle armor.
Yes. It does specifically say in there Mandalorian. They say in it the Mandalorian armor, the Mandalorians knew how to build their armor or something like that. So we have definitely, I mean, it's right there. I love it. So I really could see how this ties into the Mandalorian story is we get Cobb Vanth, or Vanth.
Yeah, it's Cobb. Yeah.
Cobb Vanth, and he is a sheriff. We're probably going back to Tatooine in season 2, I would guess. And maybe Boba Fett gets that armor back or something. We're gonna have some kind of dealing with Boba Fett, but again, Aftermath is that's canon. Like this is post Disney takeover, so it's canon. It falls in line. So the last place we saw Boba Fett's armor, and if you're not familiar, I'll just drop us real quick here. In the background here, you can see Boba Fett's armor there. The last place we saw that was getting eaten by a Sarlacc. So at some point, hopefully, we're gonna see more. We're gonna see how this happens. I'd love to see them bring Cobb into the Mandalorian. He's a great character. He already fits the Western style that they already have the feel of.
They've already seen Tatooine.
Yeah.
Right. One of the loose threads in the season was left on Tatooine.
Mm-hmm.
With the Gunslinger episode.
Yes.
So
That's a good episode.
I think it's all pointing that way.
And that's actually kind of one of my theories is a lot of people are screaming, "Oh, that's Boba Fett that was walking up to the dead man." I think it might be Cobb.
I think it might be Vance. Yeah.
He was wearing Boba Fett's armor. That's my theory. We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah.
So
either way, technically they're both right because if he's wearing Boba Fett's armor, you would be inclined to think it's Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But I think that might be the twist.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But us real nerds, no.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually just watched that episode a couple days ago, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch for the spurs. There's not spurs on his boots. It just sounds.
It sounds like it. There's no
I was gonna say,
spurs.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what is he spurring? He's not spurring a space horse.
Spurring dewback.
One of those
Spurring
guards, or what are they called?
Blurgs.
No,
The
dewbacks are on
Yeah.
Tatooine, man.
No, the dewbacks.
Banthas.
Banthas. An Ewok.
Ewok.
Sorry, it's not an Ewok.
Oh man, so I just watched this video real quick. I'm just gonna throw this up here. This video was awesome. It's celebrating the 4th. Kyle, did you see this? It's Let me do this here. So this is a thing that Disney put out. It's a cool trailer. Check this
There's
out.
so many. Has anyone been to them all?
Not likely.
I want to be the first one to see them all.
Truly wonderful the mind of a child is.
I don't think it's.
Come on.
When you find people who need your help, you help them, no matter what.
We have hope. Hope that things can get better. And they will.
Stand up together. Because that's when we're strongest. As one.
You won't be going alone. You'll have a friend with you.
No. I'll have a Jedi with me.
You might want to buckle up, baby.
Rise.
Rise in the Force.
Take care of us, everyone.
It'll take care of you. We had each other. That's how we won.
The Force is strong in my family.
Its energy surrounds us and binds us.
What is it they've sent us?
Hope.
Have you seen that, Kyle? I guess he's still probably a little delayed. I hadn't seen that before. I really like. Got me in the Star Wars feels. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really like how they brought
That's
in.
cool. Yeah.
I like how they brought in all the things that they've done with
Everything Star Wars so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Anyways, that video popped up on my next news source. Sorry, squirrel.
Well, except Resistance, but that's fine.
one of my least favorite characters. Back in the news here. Finn will reportedly use the Force next time we see him in Star Wars. Okay.
We'll use the Force.
This is we got this covered.com.
That's not how that works.
That's not how the Force works.
You don't just get to use the Force all of a sudden.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice
I mean,
ads we got going on there, Robert.
Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the idea. I like the idea of Force sensitive. I like when they brought in Maz Kanata, explaining, there's more to the Force than just Jedi and Sith.
Yeah.
I like that idea. So if we see a Force sensitive guy come in who's not a Jedi or Sith, that's fine. I really don't want to see him become a Jedi.
Why?
leave that to
I feel
Rey.
like the entire first movie's marketing was like, this guy could be the legitness. Now that was legitness.
Yeah, leave it to Rey. Honestly, I was trying to get rid of those. Here, let me see those here. Got a
I
bunch
think
of ads.
like
Oh, these are all
me
just
included.
ads.
Actually, I would hate to see Finn. His character, I feel like at the end of the trilogy was just left by the waysides. You know, like I feel like they could have done so much more with his character. Him and Poe, they could have done so much more, yet they just chose
Yeah.
to not.
And honestly, I think there's a lot. And I'm not trying to say B list actors need to be, but honestly, there's a place for that, and that's Disney Plus. You put it in a show, that's fine. But I don't really need to see a movie about him. I don't need, or the character that what's her name? The space horse chick.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the other defector.
Yeah, all the defected stormtroopers from Rise of
I can't remember her
Skywalker.
name off the top of my head.
I don't really need to see them. Like, I want to see them, but I don't need a movie. Give me a series, because I think something like that would be much more engaging as a series. Away from the wizardry of the Jedi and more of the grit of the galaxy kind of deal. That's what I would like to see.
I think he was just left in such a weird spot because you see him. Finn was really what brought up the new sequel of Star Wars movies. He was one of the first characters you see in the Force Awakens trailer for the first time. So they really used him to kind of bring the new sequel trilogy of Star Wars movies into the public, right? Because he was the one that woke up in the sand. He was the first character you saw.
Yeah.
And he was a stormtrooper, and then all of a sudden you have a good guy that was a stormtrooper, and that was really interesting. I think what they did with him in Force Awakens was really cool, but every movie after that, it was a little disappointing to see not much happening.
What are you doing with your time?
Yeah, so it's weird. It's weird, only because of the lack of use of him or the misuse of him, his character. In those second two movies in the sequel trilogy, but I would like to see more of him in the lens of how he was being introduced or how he was used in the Force Awakens. I'd like to see more of that Finn, and less of the Finn that they ended up with.
Yeah.
So if we see more of him, in that light, I think that'd be cool. Even if he's a part of Rey's new Jedi class. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I could see him being some kind of mentor. But let's face it, they've alluded to Rey doing a lot of study. Between Return of the Jedi, or Last Jedi, excuse me, and Rise of Skywalker, she had been studying. She'd been reading, she'd been learning, she'd been training. So she does have a lot to tell. I don't know. I could see him being like the friend and mentor, but I don't need him in the limelight. I don't need him up and going, like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to see him like front and center.
Yeah, and I don't think he'll be a main character. And I don't think that's what any of these rumors are saying. I think we'll just see him again.
Yeah.
And he might have the Force.
Yeah.
So
might like a little bit more than Rose from Skywalker, but not like Rose from Last Jedi. Like that, I don't need to see that much of him.
Just no Rose.
Somewhere. No, I'm not saying I want Rose, but like what they did with Rose from the Last Jedi to the Rise of Skywalker, somewhere in the middle. I want to see Finn because I think his character could be intriguing.
Yeah.
But just not like stealing the show. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like another problem with the character of Rose is the same problem that plagues Finn, is that they had an idea and they didn't follow through with it. Like I feel like Rose could have been interesting for that like side character that knows this and that. Like I don't want to say necessarily like a foil of any kind, but just more of like can be really helpful, a supporter character. Like, hey Finn, did you consider that maybe we should do this because we had a similar experience in our last movie? Like, but they didn't allude to that at all. Yeah. And I mean that you could theorize on why that is, but I mean I just feel like they set up Rose to be something that was going to be meaningful in the final act, but wasn't at all.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because like at least I want whether you like or hate the sequel trilogy, I think it's important that we see a creative vision seen through, and I just get more and more irritated by that as the days go on. Sure. But whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I could see what you're saying. Emily is saying Poe and Finn have some great backstory info in the novel Journey to the Force Awakens. It's a short novel. It's not very long, but it leads right up into the moments of the Force Awakens. And there's rumors of a Poe show too. I didn't put anything on the news because there's no articles that I've seen really strong about it, but there might be a Poe show. Faux show. So we'll see. Let's move on to our next bit of information here. We have Samuel L. Jackson reportedly returning to Star Wars as Mace Windu.
Kyle's favorite news of the week.
This is once again we got this covered.com. Their reliability is it's early. I can't really say that they're gonna. It's early.
It's all rumors at this point.
Yeah. This article just goes in and talks about different characters and things that people have come back. We've already had Mace Windu come back to do some voiceover. Like we talked about last week, apparently some of his scenes were actually deleted. But anyways, they found a way to bring back almost everybody. I can see them
really gone.
Yeah, I could see them bringing back. I mean, shoot, they even brought back Jar Jar. Jar Jar, they followed through with his storyline and kind of wrapped that up in the Aftermath series that we talked about earlier. He became a street performer back on Naboo.
Rough, dude.
Yeah. So went from outcast to senator to
back to outcast.
Outcast again. It's like, I think in a lot of ways that might have been the writer's way of saying that Jar Jar served his purpose. He's done. No, he's not Darth Jar Jar. Let's get over that.
Please move on.
Well, and there's that whole like I don't want to say it's a theory, but like more like a line of thought that Jar Jar was instrumental in Emperor Palpatine's takeover. Like he needed a buffoon in office.
Yeah.
You know,
yes.
He was a clown.
So. He served his purpose well. I think he had a purpose. He served it. Do we need more of him on TV? No.
Absolutely. Oh, sorry.
Absolutely no.
No. So, go ahead.
I don't even mind him in the movies as much. It's the Clone Wars. When he's in the Clone Wars, that really just it takes all the worst parts about him in the movies and just amplifies it to times 100.
If you thought Jar Jar was for kids, you should watch Jar Jar in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty horrible, especially the Mace Windu Jar Jar episode.
Oh my gosh.
I couldn't that was rough. That was rough to get through. So well, as you guys know, going on to our last bit of news here, we ended the series, the Skywalker saga, with all the original characters, Luke, Leia, and Han Solo, all dead now, gone the ways of the Force, except for Chewbacca. I have some good news, though. In his disparity and sadness, he was able to find a light at the end of the tunnel, and he's found work again. Let me show you this real quick.
Oh, no. Oh, nice.
I don't like where this is going.
All right.
Guys, Chewbacca is doing just fine, all right? He is working as a DJ now.
No one's asking him if he's fixed the ship anymore.
I don't. He's not. It looks like he didn't follow Rey.
Dang boy, he's thick.
He's all like, I don't have a life debt to you, bro.
Yeah, his life debt is solved. It's taken care of.
Yeah, he was kind of mad about Han's death, but on the ship he didn't see him going, wait. That's really great.
So yeah,
that's awesome,
guys. Don't worry. I'm sure he's happy. He might have gone back and got some of those porgs, but he's doing good. He's doing all right.
We're all making our way in these unprecedented times.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you don't have the tyranny of the Sith to look out for anymore, Kashyyyk has been liberated. What is a Wookiee gonna do?
He's gonna get down
DJ.
with the funk.
He's gonna Wookiee. He's gonna Wookiee.
He's gonna boogie.
Wookiee. He's gonna Wookiee. Oh, that was awesome. Good job, Ray. Oh, that's funny. So anyways, that's our news. I think my favorite bit of news that came out this week was what we talked about with Cobb Vanth and bringing a novelization character to the screen.
Yeah,
which is cool.
My favorite bit of news was the Mace Windu More specifically, when it said rumor.
Yeah,
Not
it's
confirmed.
he's a fan favorite. I'm glad you don't
Is
like
he,
him because we
though?
get some opposition on the show.
Is he though?
Especially after the way he treated Ahsoka, people really don't like him. But
I'm sorry, citizen.
He kept true to his character. Let's give him that much.
He was a D to the end, back to the end. Oh gosh! All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk about.
I liked that guy when I was a kid.
Let's talk about the next part of our show here. We're going to discuss Return of the Jedi, our likes and dislikes. 2 episodes ago, we covered New Hope. We've also covered Empire Strikes Back last week, and now we're going to talk about Return of the Jedi this week. In history, after Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars was doing good. They had made enough money to pretty much do what they wanted at this point. And George Lucas, while he had scripts in mind for 7, 8, 9, this was probably going to be the end for him. He didn't want to overdo it, so he ended the series. I liked it. And let's talk about the ending, because there's a lot of debate in the Star Wars community that say, oh, you didn't need to even continue on with this to begin with. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Kyle.
I just think that I can sympathize with that line of thought, and I could almost agree with it. But as time goes on, I don't think there's anything wrong with the idea of revisiting and seeing what happened next, because it's a living series. We constantly got additions and additions before with the Clone Wars show and the sequels and games and movies, and all we had after that was books,
Sure.
And so I think a lot of people that knew that Lucas had a script for something after that, people would be like, naturally, yeah, I want to see what happens next in Lucas's eyes.
So what do you say to the person who says, oh, Disney just did this for the money?
I mean, Disney does everything for the money.
What company doesn't do things for the money?
It's a business, right?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Out of all the companies out there, I do feel like Disney does get the evil corporation speech a little bit more than is deserved, because they are in the company of families and creating memories, and how evil can you be if you want your family to have a good time? And I don't know.
Yeah. Well, real quick before you continue on with that thought, I just wanted to welcome people who are joining us just now. This is Campbell Chronicles. We're talking about family movies, TV, travel, and Disney. Disney is also under the umbrella of Star Wars. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit that like button.
Star Wars under the umbrella of Disney.
Yeah.
Well, I think Disney is now the hen. I think Disney is the mother hen, and it can guide the little chicks where it wants it to go.
But
Star Wars is in the
Star Wars chick who's just like, loud! Let me do what I want.
Why can't you be normal, Star Wars chick?
KK? No! Kathleen Kennedy, is that what you're referring to? Oh,
yeah. I think when you spend what was it, $8 billion on a purchase,
you better get a return on that investment.
Yeah. No,
you need to.
Billion. No, it's $8 billion, right? It's $8 billion.
It was some nuts.
It was a ludicrous amount. I would say, anyways, but I mean,
do you think they make their money back though by
now? Well, depends. Depends if you're talking about how much they've put into Star Wars in general, not just the movies.
Right, because they've invested a lot too. Right,
parks.
They've put the park. Yep,
They built 2 of them. I mean, they were not cheap. They were uber expensive to build those.
Yeah.
And then the movies are not cheap to make either.
It is.
Yeah.
I think if you looked at just the money that they've invested into the initial Star Wars purchase, I think they've made that money back. But now they're investing in Star Wars on their own bill.
Right.
Right.
Good point. Yeah.
So I think they're just continuing the train. Of investment.
Yeah. I just Googled it real quick. CNBC reported that Disneyland's Star Wars Galaxy's Edge covers 14 acres and costed an estimated $1 billion for 14 acres. And what happened? They opened it up and then the park shut down not even a year later.
Rough, dude.
That's harsh. I think they can get their money still, but that's why they're charging $200 a lightsaber. They're It's not.
And
they
if you
got
sell
some-
100 million lightsabers, bada bing, bada boom, we're good.
they're all set, right? But no, have they made their money back? Not yet, because you got to look at the cost of an average episode of The Mandalorian too, right? 23 million.
I just got this image of they finally make their money back, but they really have nowhere to go because they kind of exhausted the resources they have, and they approach George Lucas on his beach while he's sipping his Corona, and then George Lucas just looks up at Bob Iger and crew and says, "You couldn't live with your own failure, and look where that brought you back to me."
Yeah, just a quick Google search: $100 million. Disney Star Wars TV series The Mandalorian cost $100 million to make. That's from BusinessInsider.com.
And a lot of that is an initial investment on their pipeline,
right?
Because they've created a whole very expensive set to make that show, and they're going to use that same set for a lot of their shows moving forward too.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that cost is going to drop dramatically per episode moving forward, unless they bring, if they start investing into other areas like CGI or whatever.
Right. Have you guys watched this week's episode of Gallery?
No,
I haven't either. If you're an audience member and you haven't,
catch up, yeah.
If you've watched it, let us know in the comments what you think about the latest episode of The Gallery. I'm probably going to watch it today, but I would love to hear what you think if you watched it, because that's actually I started out slow. I didn't really like it, but 2 or 3 episodes in now, I love it. I want to watch the 4th one. So
we should just do a whole sit down talk about the whole show.
The Gallery.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. Since we're ending a trilogy, maybe we could do that next week. That'd be a good idea.
Have a little break.
Good idea. So let's go back to Return of the Jedi. So, Star Wars. Do you like the way it ended? I liked the way it ended. Despite what you might think about them putting Hayden Christensen in and redoing some of that stuff, I liked the way it ended. Yeah. I didn't need to see more, but I'm kind of glad that we did. From the comments, Jared Later is saying the technology behind it all is amazing. He's talking about the Gallery show. So yeah, he's thank you for not. Oh, best episode by far, he says as well. So that's awesome. Good to know.
Noise.
I'll probably have to go watch that as soon as this time here. No, dang it.
Gosh, dang it, Jared.
So anyways, I like the way it ended. My favorite part about Return of the Jedi is Luke. The character Luke. You go from Empire Strikes Back. Well, let's start back in New Hope, right? You got the whiny, I want to go to TIE Station Power Converters kid, right? To a guy who learns about the Force, who's experimenting, who fights and matures a lot in Empire Strikes Back. And then there's a time gap between Empire Strikes Back and the Return of the Jedi, and he comes into Jabba's palace, full-blown, all-black Jedi, and this is the first look that you get at the Jedi demeanor.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought this was cool. Like, the character progression. And this is how valuable I think a time jump in a trilogy can be, because it allows room and interpretation to be had for something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it gives you creative freedom too, because we've seen this with Star Wars in particular, that when you have that size of a gap in time, you can do all sorts of fun things with TV shows or with books, comics, and everything. You can fill that time, and you don't have to explain it all in the movie. You can let the movie be what it wants to be, and then have that time, if you want to even address it at all. You can do it with other things that rabid fans like us like to devour anyways.
Speaking of which, that brings me to another point. I didn't put it in the news section of this, but there's apparently more Palpatine stuff coming out because of the big, massive time hop from when we saw him at the end of the Return of the Jedi to the Rise of Skywalker, essentially. What happened to Palpatine? The book out there, the novelization of the Rise of Skywalker, says that he indeed is a clone. Have you guys heard that? I haven't read the book. Have you heard that, Kyle?
I haven't heard anything about that, but I would welcome a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one.
Yeah.
Would I be okay? I don't know. Sure. It's the dark side.
It seems right up his alley, right? Because he was one to experiment with the dark side in scientific ways and in even like magic ways too. Like if you look at the expanded universe stuff, he really delved into some really weird things.
Yeah.
And so, you know, being a clone of himself or having like extra clones of himself wouldn't surprise me, right? Because he was the one that was constantly paranoid about losing control.
Yeah.
So.
And this is a problem I have with any clone movie in general. Doesn't have to be Star Wars. Anything you take it 6 days, anything.
Where does it end?
Well, where does it end? But like where? I mean, that's a different person. Is that really Palpatine?
Right.
Now that's where I think it could get interesting with him talking about Richard in Skywalker. How he talks about his spirit will end.
Yes.
So did his spirit transfer over to the clone? If so, I'm in. That is cool. But all the other movies that you see clones with, they don't really talk about that stuff. They're like their own individual. So it's like, is that Palpatine, or are you going to further explain this? If you do give us more Palpatine content, please, I would like to see that. That's what I want to see.
Yeah,
I think they're. I mean, that's how I understood it, anyways. When they talk about it in the novelization, that's how I understood it. Is that he had lifeless clones of himself, just vessels, right? There were vegetables that were brewing in a little test tube, a giant test tube, or body-sized test tube.
Yeah.
And when he died, he moved his spirit over to one of those clones, but because those clone bodies weren't natural vessels for his force essence, right?
Yeah.
It couldn't. Those bodies couldn't sustain him, so that's why they you saw him in the movie. He was very deprecated and he's falling apart.
Yeah.
Right, because the dark side of the force was just eating up those clone bodies, and he couldn't contain it.
Sure. Hey, Army, thanks for joining us. Hola, back to you.
Army?
We're talking right now about Palpatine content and what...
Talking about Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi, yeah. Whether or not we like the idea of where they left it, if they should have continued on with it. But yeah, so I kind of like... Palpatine to me has always been the ultimate bad guy. Like, he's the one that, as much as we love Darth Vader, he completely manipulated him. Like, he could see right through Anakin from day one. Yeah. So really, the ultimate bad guy to me would have been Sheev Palpatine, not necessarily Darth Vader. I love Darth Vader. He's a great villain. His story arc to me is better than Palpatine's. But as far as who would dominate, obviously, Palpatine, I feel
you
would dominate.
You needed an immovable object for your heroes to come up against, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what creates the contention in your story. Darth Vader was not an immovable object as much as he appeared to be in the beginning. He was one that his heart was softened, right?
Yeah.
But Palpatine, being the ultimate bad guy, was not going to be the guy to like have a redemption arc. He was going to be the bad guy through and through to the end.
Yep.
So I think.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the seeing how much he played a part in Return of the Jedi, because the movies before that, in New Hope and in Empire Strikes Back, you only see him briefly in Empire Strikes Back, and that's it. You see him in a hologram maybe once or twice, and that was it. But we actually see him in the flesh in Return of the Jedi, and you get to see him in action, and it just amped up all of what was happening in that trilogy up to that point where it's do or die at this point. We either defeat him or we lose. And just all the points leading up to that, just it built, and it built really, really nicely, I think.
Agreed.
And that's one of the reasons why I like that movie so much, because it takes all of the anxiety that's building up across that trilogy, and it comes to a head. And then they finish the story in a nice, clean way.
There's an Ewok party. It was all there.
Yeah.
All the boxes were checked.
They had a house party, a bonfire. Yep. Some stormtroopers were eaten. It was all good.
It was good.
All good.
Jared comments, all the Sith live in him. I think Palpatine, the person, is long gone, and the Sith live in a clone of him. Yeah. Agreed.
That's cool.
It's an interesting way to look at it too. Cause
I think a lot of this also stems back to George Lucas's main vision of Star Wars, of taking these ancient, at this time ancient, philosophies of like the hero's journey and mythological tropes. Seeing if people still cared about those fundamental ideals that we hold dear to our hearts. I think that I guess this is going back a little bit more to what Brady was saying about Darth Vader being a little bit more movable and Palpatine was not. There's all, like, in any mythology, in any, like, let's take Christianity for example. There's, the devil, like, immovable. He's just the worst, right?
Yeah.
But there's also like really bad dudes that can have redemption, that follow him, that may like come back to the light side, right?
Sure.
And that's in Greek mythology. That's all over the place, right? There's always like the one bad guy that is just like, he's so far gone, no one can ever talk to him again. And then there's like the buddy that's like, no, you fell from grace, but please come back.
Yeah.
The redemption kind of guy. Yeah. Everyone loves a good redemption arc.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
I don't know who doesn't.
Yeah, and a lot of times you just gotta put out what sells, but that's why sad ending movies don't really typically do that well.
Yeah. And that's one of the most satisfying things.
I know
about
that last
Return of the
Mickey Mouse
Jedi.
movie just did not do me anything.
That's probably one of the most satisfying things about Return of the Jedi is that they gave each of the main characters, their send off, and they wrapped their stories up, and then they did it in a way where each time you said goodbye to those characters in that movie, it was at a point where they had reached their goals. They had made it to the end of the story that they needed to get to.
Yeah.
There was no loose threads at the end.
Right.
It had all been tied up, and it was all done in a way where you looked at those characters and you're like, I'm happy that they've done it. I'm happy that they're at the end, that they've accomplished everything they were going for. Even the bad guy that I hated at the beginning, who came back around, like just having that extra little piece with Darth Vader, even though it was bittersweet because you saw him go just at the time where he had redeemed himself. I think that even adds to how well everything had tied up, because you couldn't imagine Darth Vader living past that point, right? Because he had done so much against the rebellion.
Yeah.
That even if Luke shows up, he's like, "Hey, look, my dad's back. He's cool now. He's cool.
He's cool, guys.
He's cool. He's not a murderer.
Even though he's
not that guy.
For choked
you knew Darth
everybody.
Vader. This is Anakin.
There was no doing that. There was no going back.
Yeah.
So
I can also sympathize with the ideas that some people may think that was a perfect ending, that they shouldn't have done more. Because I look at another popular franchise, Lord of the Rings. Imagine if they made a sequel to Lord of the Rings without Tolkien, and were like, yo, Frodo and Gandalf, they had to come back over the seas because the ring was not quite burnt. Like, we had to do this all over.
But let me tell you, they can go before that.
Yeah.
Which they're going to.
No, I'm just saying, like, because that's
apparently.
Because like with Palpatine coming back, it's like, wait, he's not really dead. He's not really dead.
Not really dead, guys.
Hold on.
Just kidding.
You didn't kill him.
Imagine if that happened in Lord of the Rings. Like, whoa, Sauron, no, he's still good. He had to back up.
Third time's the charm, guys.
Back up. He has 2 ring fingers.
I think they wrote in Easy Way Out for that when they wrote Revenge of the Sith. The whole conversation that Anakin and Palpatine had at the opera. That was they could easily say, okay, this is totally possible, even though it doesn't happen. It's unnatural. And he's like foreshadowing. I get it. Okay, I get it. But yeah, I'm kind of with you on that.
I feel like it was like, I mean, granted, yeah, we just made some fun, but I feel like even in what we have heard of Lucas's original takes on it, I feel like it was always the plan to bring Palpatine back. Like even in Legends, like Palpatine came back.
Yeah.
In some fashion, Palpatine always comes back. So I feel like that was always the intention.
And I never had a problem with him coming back. I thought it was cool that he did.
I kind of wish they would have brought him back at the end of Last Jedi, though.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like Snoke dies, and you have the like little close up on Snoke's twitching tongue.
You get that,
and then all of a sudden you just hear.
Yeah.
I am all the Sith.
I am the Senate. I mean the Sith.
If you will not be the new Senate, I will.
I think I still that's always been my viewpoint though, is that The Last Jedi was a good movie. It had a bunch of good Star Wars moments. It was just not done in the right order.
Yeah, agreed.
So I think that's why it feels like it wasn't the plan, right? Because there was nothing leading up to that point in the trilogy that even like remotely felt like Palpatine was coming back. There was nothing.
Nothing. No, we haven't.
And as much as they say that was the plan the whole time, we're like, no.
But was it though?
Show us,
Stop lying to yourselves and to us.
Give us the Abrams cut. It worked for Zack Snyder. It's gonna work for us too.
Oh, I believe that'll happen one day.
Oh, anyway, so going back to Return of the Jedi.
I'm telling you, if they really wanted to retcon this at all, they have a perfect out. They just need to do it. And that's the world between worlds. Just go back and rearrange.
Yeah, that's
things.
true. That's true. I
so
love
easy.
that. If you guys listening aren't sure what the world between world is, you got to watch. I think it's season 4
Rebels.
of Rebels. Yeah. I see. Is it 3 or 4? It's season 3 or 4. I think it's 4.
I think it's 3.
Might be 3. Anyways, one of those where Ezra explores this new Force realm. It's pretty dang cool. Like, I liked it. I really liked it.
And it wasn't like just time travel for time travel's sake. It felt like it actually had purpose.
It had a purpose. Like the Force was a character almost in this way.
Yeah. It willed them to be in the place they were at that time, you know?
Right. So, I like that. Yeah. If you haven't watched that, watch Rebels. Anyways, back to Return of the Jedi. Let's talk about some of our dislikes, guys. Kyle, do you want to start with dislikes?
This is my least favorite movie of all Star Wars, and by that I mean it was my first favorite until Revenge of the Sith came out. So
I don't even know what that means.
I don't even know
lost
the answer.
No, I love Return of the Jedi. It is before we had Revenge of the Sith, it was by far and away my favorite Star Wars movie. I find little fault with that movie. You had big mechs getting crushed by logs. You had the best space battle in ever. You got a new TIE fighter, which was cool. That was a great time. Death Star 2, you know, sorry, this is the Death Star. This is Death Star 2, you know.
Wait, where's Starkiller on that?
What?
And
that's a small Death Star.
This is Starkiller Base.
Okay. Now I get it now.
Yeah,
the scale makes sense.
That's
good. Yeah, no, I liked the idea. Also, I think if we're talking about like major moments in the movie that really sealed the deal for me, it just comes down to Luke really figuring out what it meant to be a Jedi. And when he throws his lightsaber down and says, "I am a Jedi. I'm not going to fight you. Do with me what you will, but the Force is my ally." I was just like, even as a little kid, I was like, "You go, brother, you go!" It was just such a cool moment, you know.
Yeah, and
why he threw his lightsaber away? He obviously didn't know who Mace Windu was. What happened to him when he didn't have his lightsaber and lightning came his way?
No, I just mean like casting off his weapon. Like, I'm not gonna fight you. You know.
I always just like, why are you throwing down your lightsaber? You're leaving yourself defenseless. Didn't your father just say you're unwise to lower your defenses?
When anyone says like, "Oh, Luke would never throw away his lightsaber. Why did he do that in the Last Jedi?" It's like, bro, he did it in the first trilogy too. Like, he did it. It was a callback for sure.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I think also the stuff with Yoda too was really great in that movie in particular. You really see Yoda go from like some weird comic relief type wise character is so weird in Empire Strikes Back to being, this is the Jedi that Obi-Wan promised. Like this, he is wise beyond his year. I mean, he had a lot of years behind him, so maybe not beyond his years. He had a lot of years to get that wisdom, but he was super. He was the wise one. He was the cautious one. He was the one that trained Luke everything that a lot of the things, not everything, I guess. Yeah. He made them.
He trained him for like 3 days, to be fair.
I mean, as far as we know.
I thought it was months, actually.
I was gonna say, I think
it was a while.
At least on the screen.
I'm gonna have to Google that.
Even in the comic books they're writing, like, to fill in the gap between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, Luke does not go back. They have their own things they're doing. When at the end of Empire Strikes Back, he says, "I'll come back, I promise." And then in Return of the Jedi, he flies back and says, "I have a promise to keep to an old friend."
Yeah.
And that's the first time he comes back. So.
Well, no. I'm talking about the time he was originally on Dagobah.
Yeah, like 3 days.
I don't think it was 3 days. I think it was more.
Follow Han and Leia throughout their journey, and follow Luke. How?
Yeah, I could see what you're saying.
So you can say for sure.
Yeah. I just still the character that we're introduced with, Yoda being in Empire Strikes Back to seeing him at the end of his life in Return of the Jedi, you all of a sudden felt like this is kind of a father figure and a mentor, right? That Luke really needed, that he wanted Obi-Wan to be, but he had to make his choice to finish his story with Anakin, right? So Yoda was really the father figure and the mentor that he needed to be the Jedi that he was, and seeing Yoda pass at the end of that, and in the way that he passed, talking about his sister, and
yeah,
it was really impactful.
Yeah, and I mean that's another thing that like is like cemented in like all of the mythologies, right? Like you look at like Lord of the Rings, they kind of use the same character for both, right? But you got Gandalf the Grey and then Gandalf the White. You got Gandalf the Grey that's like the lesser, and then Gandalf the White, it's like all supered up and stuff.
Yeah.
There's always like the frog or the mythological creature that instructs the hero on his way, right?
Yep.
And that, again, it's just like the beauty of how smart that that trilogy was created. Like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. Going back to your point real quick, Kyle, on the how long was Luke being trained in Dagobah? So you're saying follow Han and Leia's storyline. Well, Han and Leia were stuck without a hyperdrive. They were on the ship hiding for who knows how long.
So
then they found Lando's place and had to fly there through the vacuum of space for who knows how long. So I mean, there's room for interpretation.
Sure.
I saw on websites that it could be anywhere from 30 minutes to 6 months. It's like you got to kind of pick and choose it in there. But
well, and also like you could interpret the like Revenge of the Sith, like things happening months and months apart from each other, but then Clone Wars is like, nope, that was all like within the same day.
Yeah. So I got a lot of likes though, guy. I want you to dig for some dislikes. What's something you disliked about Return of the Jedi?
I think the only thing I dislike about Return of the Jedi is I wish we had gotten more of a moment with. I mean, what we did was beautiful, right? But I wish we got more. We would have seen more of like, and like, what if Leia had known that her father was redeemed? What if Leia, like, I wanted that kind of moment. That's kind of what I hope we would see in the sequels as well.
Yeah.
But I wish there would have been a moment, even if it was just a few minutes of just Luke and Leia talking again, like they were on the bridge before, of like Luke showing his sorrow about losing their father, and Leia clicking for her again, like, oh, you're my brother. That also means Darth Vader is my father. Then Luke saying like, well, Anakin was, like that would have been a really cool moment, I feel like.
Yeah. And it didn't really even, because they left it there at the end of the movie, right? They left it hanging. And even when they like said it in Skywalker, it's like, oh wait, yeah, I guess I'm the grand, it just, it's like,
right.
There's some time there. It took time for it to sink, even years later. So,
but guys, let's remember, less is more.
Right. Less is more, even if you're starving for content.
I'll tell you what. I this is one where I can relate to Kylo Ren. More is more.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah. No, I like. See, that's the hard part, right? There's so much to like about this movie, and I remember it so fondly.
Yeah.
So it's hard to pick out things that I may have disliked. Like even the stuff about Leia, I think it was a really nice thing. I can understand how you would feel like I would like to see how all of this, what this all meant to her, right?
Yeah.
What, being the daughter of a Sith Lord, of, being a brother to a Jedi Master, all that stuff. Like, what does that mean to her?
Sure.
And we never really got that, because she, she chose her own path. But maybe that's the point. Maybe, she got to be who she wanted to be without anybody else's influence. So there's that. But the moment on Endor with Luke on the bridge with the Ewoks, like that was one of the most like pure like character developing moments in film for me. Like just seeing those two talk about like what's happening to them and what's going to happen to them in the future.
Yeah.
How they each didn't want anything bad to happen to each other, but they still had to do their job.
Yeah. And I don't bring this up as in a joking fashion, but let's take their character. There was a slight sexual tension between those two as well. So to have that arc into that, again, it's funny. Oh, Luke kissed his sister, but the arc between that and this, yeah.
And I never even, I saw this movie when I was a kid, so I didn't really like see sexual tension as much as everybody else did.
Sure.
I didn't
Well, do you remember Luke's face when he asked? Exactly.
Yeah, that is it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And Luke, he was getting all giddy. He wanted a piece of pie, a piece of Leia pie. But, anyways, so seeing the arc there. Sorry.
But you fast forward to this moment when they're on the bridge. He is not that way.
No, he's not, and that's what I love.
Yeah, he has become a Jedi where he's tempered his passions.
Yeah,
and he knows that Leia is his sister.
Yeah,
and he knows that he's about to face something that could even have negative impact on her too, and he's trying to protect her from that.
Yeah,
but you could tell what I think what people see is the sexual tension there was more of him fighting a battle inside of him, trying to protect her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was so much going on just in that one scene that like you could write pages about it.
Sure.
Like, what that all meant to them.
Yeah.
And I think that was just really well done.
I could say this as well. If we're fishing for dislikes, if I were to watch this movie at my age, I could easily see myself being like, "Wait, Leia is Luke's sister? That is way too convenient."
This galaxy full of trillions of life forms.
Yeah.
Way too convenient. The Force finds the way.
There's a with the Force.
This is the way. And I think
I guess.
There's also always been a part of me that's like, why?
What are you gonna say next? Han Solo is his uncle? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm like you guys. Trying to fish for a dislike is pretty hard.
What were the droids doing? What was the point of the droids at that point in the trilogy? I've always disliked the droids.
Give Luke his lightsaber. And just give Luke his lightsaber.
They served more purpose in the first 30 minutes of that film than they did the rest of the film.
But even then, not really. They could have had anything translate for Jabba.
What they do?
Exactly. If anything, their only purpose in all of Star Wars was the first 30 minutes of A New Hope, and that's it.
Sure. Yeah.
But like I said earlier, they were always meant to be that vehicle in which we experienced the Star Wars, right? Like,
I've never seen Star Wars through the droids' eyes.
No, we don't see them. We travel. They are our tour guides. Have you never been on the ride?
3PO is a terrible tour guide.
3PO.
They fly now.
I'll be honest. 3PO throughout any Star Wars has been slightly annoying.
Oh,
only time that I didn't find him as annoying was actually in Rise of Skywalker. He had a little bit more of a role. He actually had a purpose, a good purpose too, in that movie.
Yeah.
Otherwise, 3PO has kind of been the sideshow that's very annoying.
It was dumb.
Yeah,
I've always liked R2D2
out of my head.
I'll say that.
Of like little Anakin and on Tatooine, like programming C-3PO. Wait! Just remember this ancient Sith language 3PO. You can't ever translate.
Don't ever say these words.
For the record, since you brought it up, I'll talk about it. Let's say, okay, so Anakin, what do we do when we want to build something, right? We want to build a computer. Our own computer. You go get processor, you go get these parts, you put them all together, and here's your computer.
You don't even you get.
That's pretty much what Anakin did, right?
Yeah.
Let's not overdo it. He probably got a part here, a part there. He put it together, and that part there had a galactic law that restricted him from speaking Sith. I don't think it was Anakin.
It's still funny though. It's still funny as heck.
It is funny. I'll give you that. But that's kind of how I view that whole.
Right. No, that's a great comparison too, because like the computer, we don't know how to build a CPU, but yet we put a CPU in our computer and we say we built the computer.
Right.
And all those parts have their own protocols and their own software that runs them. So it makes sense. I think one of the biggest disappointments for me from Return of the Jedi, and it's not that much, it's seeing Boba Fett go down so easily. We were talking about this the last time, right?
Happens, man.
Yeah.
Boba Fett was the only character that we've seen in the show that was able to take down Han Solo.
Yeah.
But then you go to the next movie, and he gets taken down by that same guy who was blind just by getting tapped in the back.
It was Luke's lightsaber, wasn't it? No, it was. Yeah, it was Boba Fett. Yeah, it was a staff. You're right. You're right.
I mean, like,
no,
it's dumb.
I'm on the side that I'm really okay with it, mostly because I always thought Boba Fett was overrated, anyways. Even though he is cool for taking, giving Han Solo a run for his money, but
sure,
it's just an example of crap happens. Like anything can happen when you're in a battle, and that's one of them, right?
Yeah.
Like there was no accounting.
Happened too easy.
Right?
He's a Mandalorian, by the way. Come on.
Yeah,
I hope they go into that
foundling.
more. I hope they go into Boba Fett's Mandalorianism more. Like, I want more on Jango Fett, because we've heard so much that he wasn't a Mandalorian. He stole the armor and he took off his mat. Well, I want to hear.
A foundling? Was he? Well,
yeah.
I mean, is that a part of like the whole idea of foundlings and?
That's interesting.
Trueborn?
I haven't even thought of.
Was that all established after the purge, or was that all before?
Yeah, that's what I want. I want more Mandalorian history, more Mandalorian lore. Explain Jango. If they're bringing back Boba Fett, they got to name drop Jango Fett somewhere. Yeah. You know, so maybe. We'll see,
or not,
or not.
That's actually really interesting. I haven't thought of that.
What's that? Which part?
Well, just the possibility of Jango Fett being a foundling. You know, like he stole the armor, then he became a Mandalorian anyway. You know, like that would be really interesting, because that would also explain the fact that why does Boba Fett even have a Mandalorian symbol on his shoulder? You know, like why would he have that if he painted Jango Fett's armor, right? And then he painted a Mandalorian symbol on it. Like, why would he do that?
Did he paint his armor? Because I thought he blew it up. Well, he blew up the helmet when he tried to kill Mace. No, Boba Fett blew up Jango Fett's helmet. So
you're saying he got another set of armor?
Yeah.
Somewhere?
Yes. Because at least the helmet. He had to get the helmet from somewhere, because in the Clone Wars he blew up Jango Fett's helmet trying to kill Mace on that down attack. Oh yeah. So he hit a bomb in it.
Maybe that's just a plot hole. Honestly.
Maybe. Well, I mean, if they're coming back and filling in plot holes from books,
I'm sure we'll get a little backstory.
We can get something on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
That'd be the place to do it, but
less is more, though, right?
We won't. So less is more.
Less is more. Said every Death Star designer ever.
You can't do that to a fandom who lives and breathes Star Wars, though. Like, if that's the thing, that's Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have on their hands. They're taking on this fandom of freakishly freaky nerds who know this crap just as good as them, and they will call you out if you mess up.
I could just see Kathleen Kennedy in a board meeting, being like, someone asks her, so Boba Fett's backstory, should we do that? She's like, no, less is more.
Less is more.
Give him a book.
Less is
get out of here. Meeting over.
Give him a 2-minute Star Wars Destinies YouTube video.
Oh my gosh.
Where's Rey? Where's the girls in
Less
this
is more.
series, in the show?
Wait, Boba Fett's a girl, right?
No, that was supposed to say there was a time in young Boba Fett's life where there was a little bit of an identity coming of realization.
We don't get to see much of his teen years.
Yeah. Oh, I'm messing up my stuff here. Anyways, so yeah, I thinking back to my dislikes of Return of the Jedi, I don't want to say it's the Ewoks, because they fulfilled a purpose, but they were teddy bears, and
what about
the Ewoks, right? This might be my dislike.
Right.
I get this is the big problem with the Emperor from the beginning, is completely underestimating his foes, even little teddy bears. I get that, but they were teddy bears. And again, from a marketing standpoint, and if you watch Empire of Dreams, that there's a reason why they brought the Ewoks in versus a lizard that had acid venom that could spray and melt through stormtrooper armor.
I mean, Bossk.
Well, you're right. They didn't do Trandoshans for a reason, but they did do Ewoks. I'm like, okay. They fulfill their purpose in the story. They help take down. That story though was played out through all the galaxy. The locals, the natives, got tired of the Empire and were finally ready to stand up when the rebels came along. That's cool. I get that.
The rebels led them. It goes back to what Poe always said. There are good people out there. They just need someone to lead them.
Yeah. So again, I like that. I like the story of it. I just don't know if I like. I just don't know if I like the teddy bears.
I thought it was
I like Warwick Davis. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Give me some more Willow.
I think it's also, you have to look at a perspective of, like, people love Chewbacca. Let's make Chewbacca smaller. Let's do it.
More travel size.
What?
Yeah. Like marketability, right? Like people love Chewbacca. Let's make more Chewbaccas, but also cuter.
Yeah.
No, I could see
it wouldn't be as creepy to hug one of those.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it just kind of fit with the theme that Star Wars had.
Yeah.
That like you said, rebels showing up and helping the oppressed, right?
Yeah.
Although, I don't know if we didn't really see how the Ewoks were oppressed.
We didn't.
Or even
They
hear
were kind of happy in their trees, it
They were
seemed. But I will say that because I feel like I really had to fish for a dislike. I'm going to go back to likes real quick. Up until this point in Star Wars history, or even in science fiction history, this was probably the best space battle to date.
Yeah.
It was visually and choreographically. It was done really well. Right?
Choreographically.
Yeah, that word. It was done really well. It was put together because not only did they follow Luke in the battle with Vader, but they followed Han Solo on the ground leading the attack team down there. And they had this whole space battle. And weaving in and out there and how that tied in. But it was the effects. It was the sound effects, the lights, the sounds, the movements, everything. The CG that was used for, what was it, 1985? 83, I think? 83?
Came out in 83, yeah.
So in 1983, when it came out, this technology was well beyond what they had previously, especially for, comparing to New Hope versus even Empire Strikes Back, and now this. It was, and this goes to show they had the money to do what they wanted, and they did it. They knocked it out of the park as far as the space battles go.
I think Return of the Jedi did more for the expanded universe than any book or any of the movies before it. Like, it not only did it finish the story, but it launched Star Wars to do more, to be more, right?
Sure.
Because you introduced all those new spaceships, So we had games like X-Wing, and we had the miniature game X-Wing, and we had all these games, movies, books that focused around all the stuff that was introduced in Return of the Jedi and explained more.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, but you also, not only that, you had those 3 different battles happening all at once. You had the land battle in Endor, the space battle outside of the Death Star, and then you had Luke and Vader squaring off. And they were all happening at the same time, but I never felt at one point that I was overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I was like
there's too much
What's
story.
happening here?
Yeah.
It was all simple enough, but it was engaging enough.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Right. Yeah.
So I that was just super well done. And I mean, it shows how George Lucas grew as a director too.
Yeah. Kyle, what do you think?
No, I just ditto. Really, like
just ditto.
I can only repeat what he said so much.
Yeah. So, it's a great movie.
Cool.
It was one heck of a send off.
Yeah, I agree. Again, going back to that, should they have stopped it there? Not. Yeah, okay. I like more Star Wars. Who doesn't? So sure, let's keep it going.
In the end, we're not complaining that we got to see more.
Let me ask you guys this question: what time period do you want to see the most? Do you want to see more post Return of the Jedi pre-sequels? Do you want to see more post Clone Wars pre New Hope, or do you want to see more post Rise of Skywalker, or maybe even pre Clone Wars? What era do you want to see more of the most? You have to pick one.
Go ahead, Kyle. Well, if you're thinking, I got an answer.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brady.
So, one of the coolest things that Star Wars went to after these original trilogy movies, and even even the prequel trilogy too, is that they went back, way back in time, like before Anakin was ever even born, like thousands of years, and they did the old Republic.
Yeah.
And this is a version of the Republic that we know in the prequel trilogies, but it wasn't that. It was the foundation of the Galactic Senate before that. It was like the first version of that. And you saw the Jedi acting like how Jedi were always preached that they were supposed to be like, right? This was their glory days. The rising of the Jedi as a foundation, as a organization, also helped give rise to the Senate, to the Galactic Senate, as like this galactic organization. So you got to see a little bit in that time period, and also you got to see its fall, and how a giant peaceful thing like that could fall, and a lot of it had to do with the Sith. So I think, and then it was all new stories. So you didn't know, like, yeah, we knew that the Republic would come back, but you didn't know like what all of that meant in that time period because it's so far removed from everything else. So I liked that era because it's so far removed from so much that you could stretch your creative legs, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I found it so interesting that they went only back for 200, 400 years to do the High Republic stuff that we're talking about now. When they could have gone back so much farther and had so much elbow room to do anything and everything they wanted.
I wonder if that's because they wanted to keep some familiarity. Like, obviously, Yoda would still be alive, right? So you would still have maybe a Jedi Master, not like a Grand Master, but maybe just a normal Jedi Knight Yoda.
Yeah.
Which would be cool. That'd be kind of cool. We'd see action. I like that idea.
Well, I would expect we see that in the High Republic stuff that's coming out.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that and right. Yeah, that's cool. I like that idea. And also for those who are watching, what era do you want to see more of? Pre-Clone Wars, post-Clone Wars, pre-Clone Wars, like pre-Episode 1, or maybe even post-Episode 9. What in between 4 and 3, and what do you want to see more of? For me, I like the idea. I like the idea of the High Republic. I do like it a lot. But here's my problem with it. I already know how it ends.
Yeah.
We already know that eventually something's going to come along. We're going to have the Republic rise. We're going to have Anakin and Palpatine. We're going to have that story that's already there. So we kind of already know where it'll go. Doesn't mean we can't have some really cool characters along the way. But that's why, as much as I dislike some of the direction that the recent Star Wars has gone, that's the Star Wars I want to see. I want to see something that I don't know. I want to see some endless possibilities. So please follow Rey. Follow the building of the new Jedi Order. Give me some new bad guys. Give me something else to see that I haven't seen in Star Wars yet, but still feels like Star Wars. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So as much as I want to see more in between Episode 3 and 4 with Vader hunting down Jedi, I'd love to see that. I would love to see the Battle of Jakku on a big screen. I would love to see all these things, but they're kind of already taking care of a lot of that with the Mandalorian.
They've tackled the Battle of Jakku in several mediums now.
Yeah, and they're coming out with the Cassian Andor show, so we're gonna see more of that. What I really want to see now is a post Rise of Skywalker, the new bad guy order. Where do all those spirits of Palpatine go? Are they gonna go and envelop some creature out there, become a dark side creature? I don't know. I just want to see
Space Dragon.
Yeah, Space Dragon, like a Bendu, but for the dark side.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me to what I wanted to say. What I was thinking about mine is, I was trying to decide whether I wanted like Old Republic or after. But the reason I was thinking that is because there's two big things there's one big thing that I want that existed in both eras, in Legends at least. In Old Republic, we see that trailer of the giant Jedi army fighting the giant Sith army in the Jedi Temple, and then in the Jedi Fate of the Jedi series, we get a planet full of Sith. I really want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see that part of Star Wars where Sith were more powerful as far as number goes. They had more influence. It wasn't from the shadows as much. It was very much more in your face, like, we're coming after what we want to do, rather than Palpatine just waiting and waiting and waiting. Okay, now I'm in, So
the Fate of the Jedi series was something else.
What was it?
It was next level Star Wars stuff.
Huh.
Yeah, I rather liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we listened to that book together.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'll have to listen to it.
It's all Legends stuff now.
Legends now, yeah. That's disappointing. If you're just joining us, we're talking. Just to kind of recap what we've been talking about. We've gone over this week's Star Wars news. We've had some big announcements. Well, not like major, but Ahsoka possibly showing up in the Kenobi show. We've talked about the man named Timothy Olyphant showing up in the Mandalorian season 2. How we're speculating him to be Cobb Vanth from the Aftermath series.
He's most well known for being the actor who played Hitman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true.
He's probably more well known for.
That's Cobb. That's Timothy Olyphant, who I really hope is becoming Cobb Vanth, because that'd be really cool to see a novelization of a character show up. And in that Aftermath series, he was wearing Boba Fett's armor. So let's see. Also, Finn is reportedly going to be using the Force next time we see him in Star Wars. Samuel L. Jackson is reportedly coming back to back to Star Wars, which he's always been open to. Also, Chewie found a job.
Oh yeah, Chewie found a job.
What the heck?
If anything, Samuel L. Jackson has been asking to come back to Star Wars. He's been like, "Hey, just call me, bro. You got my number."
He has been very active. Like he voiced, like he didn't he voice actually? No, he
didn't voice.
Can we just let's talk about Chewie real quick?
Windu in the movie.
After Rise of Skywalker, can we just talk about how much weight Chewie gained? Like, look at this.
He's happy now.
He's happy. He's loving life.
This is what a Wookiee looks like when he's not in captivity.
Yeah. his human master. Now that he's gone, like he's like, I'm free.
It's like, no life, Dad.
Yeah. It's nice being
Let's
debt free.
celebrate Life Day.
He's put on some weight. Anyways, sorry.
Wookie, rocking everywhere. Baka everywhere.
Oh yeah, if you're just joining us, thanks for joining us. We've been talking about that along with Last Jedi. I keep on doing that. Return of the Jedi. Why'd they ever call it the Last Jedi?
Because I mean, they have to come back. So there's
they returned, and then
Return of the Jedi.
Later, it was the last one.
Yeah. Return of the Jedi, our likes and our dislikes. We talked a lot about Palpatine and his character story arc, how that ties into that. So if you do like our show, please, if you find value in anything that we've said today, if you like what you've seen, please hit that subscribe button. Along with that like button, let us know what you think. In the comments below, let us know what era that you are looking forward to the most. Like, I want to see post Rise of Skywalker, purely for the fact I don't know how that ends. If you want to see pre-Clone Wars, pre-Phantom Menace, or maybe post-Clone Wars, before, whatever, just let us know what you want to see. Do you guys want to add anything before we go? Anything special?
That's everything.
Yeah, everything's
Less
kind of
is
been
more.
Yeah, everything's been kind of quiet on the media front, whether it's games, books, or whatnot. Nothing new that way. Although,
500 characters in Lego Star Wars.
There are 500 characters.
500 characters in Lego Star Wars. I looked
playable.
that up after we got off last time.
500 playable.
I mean, are you going to play it as all 500 of them?
At the same time.
At the same time?
Very much. Simultaneously.
Goodness. I mean, I like Lego Star Wars. It's fun. Or any Lego game, really. It's fun, but I play the story and I'm done with it. I never go back and I try the new characters and all that. I just play the story and I'm done with it.
I'm sorry you're not a completionist.
Yeah. So I will not play all 500 characters. I can tell you that right now.
But
I'm going to play all campaigns, though. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
It should be just one whole story.
Sure.
But you could start in any section in any movie.
Yeah.
Well, which one was it? Lego Star Wars 3 that had, it was more of the combination of the first two, where it was like, okay, the prequels and the sequels now all together. And you went around in the cantina and you went to the story mode of each.
Yeah.
That was a long game, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Nice.
I imagine they'll do something like that. I mean, they have already said that they'll have all 9 movies in this game, but you can play them in any order. You can play the stories of those movies in any order. So that's cool.
Lego Pirates of the Caribbean is also really good, by the way.
Lego games good.
Yeah. Other media.
But in conclusion, we continue to stand.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Brady?
There was something Disney related.
Okay.
We've been playing Villainous.
Villainous.
Oh yeah.
That is a fun game.
It's a fun game. So it's a board game where you play as the villains of the Disney world, and you have all your goals that you're trying to achieve as the villain to win the game. So and each of the players, you pick a villain to play as, and your goal is different from someone else's goal. So while the game is progressing, you're trying to achieve your objective. For example, you have Jafar is one of the examples of the villains that you can play as. His goal is to get the magic lamp, bring it to the palace, and to get the genie under your control.
Right.
Just like in the movie, right?
Sure.
And if you do all those things in before anybody else finishes their objectives, then you win the game.
Yeah.
So you get to play as all these different villains and do all these villainous things to each other, because that's what villains do. But what's really cool about this game is that we found out that they just announced that they're going to introduce Marvel villains into the game, which, what we were talking about this before, it just kind of opens the door to, what if they're going to do Marvel, why not do Star Wars?
Just do Star Wars, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got it. I mean, honestly. And I was talking to Emily last night. So who would they put in there? Three top villains.
Palpatine, obviously.
Vader.
Palpatine, obviously. Vader, obviously.
Vader, yeah.
And then I guess we
I think by fan favorite purely, Boba Fett.
Boba Fett would be cool.
Yeah.
Grievous or Dooku.
Grievous would be cool. Grievous.
Snoke.
So you gotta do.
I think
they come out with like 5 or 6, right?
Rebels Maul, like get Ezra Bridger or whatever.
Maul, yeah.
Kind of like
Maul would be good.
Yeah. Thrawn would be so good. Oh gosh. Yeah. Well,
that's the problem
if Maul
right there.
comes in, if Maul comes in, I just want one of his cards to just be like Kenobi.
Yeah. Hey, if you guys are listening, have you guys played the game Villainous? What do you think of the game? Do you have a favorite character, and do you think they're going to bring a Star Wars edition to it? I think they will, especially by opening up the gateway to the MCU. As we've talked about before, the plans of Bob Iger and Bob Chapek,
Bob II,
current CEO of Disney, is to make Star Wars just as successful as the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So,
as we all know, there aren't a lot of Star Wars board games.
There's not really a lot of Star Wars stuff, right?
Oh,
except the stuff that takes forever.
There's one that came out not too long ago called Star Wars Outer Rim.
I was completely joking. There's lots of Star Wars board games.
There's lots of Star Wars. Okay, so the game we played, X-Wing, that's a fun game, but it just takes forever.
Yeah.
You think X-Wing takes forever? Can I introduce you to Legion and Armada?
Do you guys have any favorite Star Wars games? Because I would love to try some new Star Wars games via either game consoles or board games. What do you think? Anyways, do you guys want anything else, or should we wrap it up?
Good. That's it for me.
Star Wars is great. Return of the Jedi.
Got to get back to playing Villainous now.
Yeah. So next week we'll come back with you. So my work schedule is going to change in June, but next week I should be able to come back at you in Saturday or Sunday. As we're finding out what time works best for you guys as well. Let us know what you think, what time period works good for you. If it's if you like the Sundays, if you like Saturdays. We seem to have got a lot more views on Saturdays than we did. Not that we're here just for views. We want to actually discuss this with the community as well.
We already established this, right? Any good business is in the business of making money.
True.
We make no money, so this is not a business.
This is not a business. This is just us sitting down talking about our love of Star Wars.
We do this anyways.
It's just for fun. Yep. But we want to have fun with you guys who are listening. So if you guys have a day in mind that works better for you, just let me know. We'll do our best. Once again, if you haven't done so already, please hit that like and subscribe button. We do appreciate your support there. It does truly help our channel grow. I'm not just saying that. Yeah. You guys want to say bye or anything else?
Yeah. See you guys. It was fun.
We'll see you next week. Later. All right. We're off.
Cool. Good job. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I like that. I kind of like going down the... Oh, he's just kicking off here.
He's done. We can go talk upstairs now. We don't have to stay here. Yeah. I actually really want to get off this chair. Oh.
Sorry, that's the only one I had down here.